What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Roads We Travel podcast. My name is AJ Pelletier. Thank you again for tuning in, subscribing, all that great stuff on all our networks, YouTube, Spotify, Apple, Google, wherever you guys get your podcasts from. I appreciate it. Thank you all very much. Let's keep it up. Tell your friends, tell your family. I would love if you did. Need more and more listeners every day. Give me the listeners. I need them. Anyway, thank you again for tuning in. It's been kind of a rough week for me. I had a long work week, made a couple bad parts that, unfortunately, had to scrap because, they're no good, and it kind of bit me in the ass a little bit. So kind of a long, rough week, but, it is what it is. But I did have some fun last night when I got out from my part-time job. I was streaming with friends. And we played this crazy-ass game called Duck Game. And never heard of it. A lot of fun, though. It's just, I talk about it in today's episode a little bit. But, it's just like, I guess it's an Adult Swim game or something like that. But you're just like a cartoon duck, and you're just basically blasting away your friends and stuff. It was just a lot of fun. But, yeah, that really took me out of my funk. So thank you to my Twitch friends and streamers for, getting me out of my funk last night. I had a lot of fun. But anyway, let's get into today's guest. My guest today is Brittany Brown from the NiteCap, a true crime podcast. Brittany and I met online through this podcast community group. She put out a post in the group saying that she was looking to be a guest on a show where people talked about mental health, and so she could open up about her struggles and her struggles with addiction and being sober for 5 years now. So I immediately hit her up. I wanted her to be a guest on my show. And she really dug deep for this episode. She opened up a lot about, dealing with depression, ADHD, bipolarism, being a mother on top of it while fighting to stay, before she made the decision to be sober, just what it was like for her between alcohol and drug abuse, and then just waking up one day saying she wanted to be sober. So this really was an inspirational episode. She was such a great guest. I want to have her come back. I had a lot of fun chatting with her, and then getting to talk a little bit about true crime and stuff, which was a lot of fun. So definitely check out her podcast. I'll leave the link below. She does it with two other great people, Gavin and Susie. It's a great podcast. Check it out. But yeah, let's get right into it today. Let's hit the road with Miss Brittany Brown. Welcome to the Roads We Travel podcast, episode 29. My name is AJ Pelletier. Thank you again for tuning in and subscribing and all that jazz. I appreciate it. We got a great guest today, my new friend who I met through the podcast community on Facebook, my friend Brittany Brown of the NiteCap, a true crime podcast. How are you, Brittany?
I'm exhausted, but other than that, I'm doing okay.
All right. Well, that's good.
Yeah, I got my coffee, so we're solid.
There you go. Yeah, I wish I was a coffee drinker. I'm not a coffee drinker at all. I love the smell of it. I just can't take the taste of it.
Yeah, I used to I used to be one that would put like all the creamer and all the sugar in, and it didn't taste like coffee anymore. And then as I get older, I'm like, oh yes, the taste of coffee, delicious.
There you go. Yeah, it's more of an acquired taste. My buddy was the same way for a while. Now he drinks it black, and I'm like, ugh.
Yeah, I can't quite go there, but look at my dog looks just like fucking chilling.
What's
She's
the
gonna
dog?
distract me.
What's the dog's name?
That is Jezebel.
Oh, Jezebel.
She's my asshole little furry soulmate.
Oh, there you go.
But
Yeah.
anyway.
Like I said before we started recording, my cat is off camera right now. She's the unofficial, I guess, host of my podcast because she likes rudely interrupting all the time. Her name is Isabella. I'm sure she'll be in at some point.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh no, I don't. I was just gonna say she'll just probably snooze there and then
That's fine.
try to yell at someone at some point.
I love animals. They're all great. So how's life going during the pandemic for you? You're all the way on the West Coast while I'm over here on the East Coast.
Yeah, I'm in Portland. It has been as far as like not being able to go out and do stuff, it's not that different because I am very introverted. I'm like an extroverted introvert. So I talk a lot, but I like just being home.
I'm the same way.
But yeah, so but I mean, like a lot of people, obviously, work was like very affected by it. I was in two industries that I thought were like untouchable by everything. Like my main job was working for a company that assisted with expediting visas and passports
Oh, okay.
for corporate travel. And
You
like,
didn't come across Ted Cruz by any chance, did you?
no. God, that's a whole nother topic.
Oh
Um,
man, this joke is going to
yeah,
be old by the time this podcast airs, but it's still freshly new in our eyes right now. So
exactly. It just happened. So, um, yeah, so like 75% of our like business was helping with China visas. And
okay,
so like we were sorry, I didn't even ask cussing. It's
you
fine.
swear away, please.
Okay, good. I don't even realize I'm doing it half the time. I'll be like in my kids' class, like, yeah, we just were like fucking blah blah. And I'm like, I don't like it's just natural now. Yeah, no, we were like fucked like before everyone even knew that this was a thing. So
Hmm.
that was like right away. And then I had just finally gone back to school after like 15 years and gotten my esthetician's license.
Oh, good for you.
Yeah, but you know, I got the license in January of 2020
Oh,
and I was trying to start up my own facial business where one of my taglines was let me touch your face.
oh no,
So
that didn't pan out.
no. So yeah, so I was like in the industries of travel and beauty, like two things that you're like, no matter what, everyone's gonna travel and everyone's gonna no,
Right.
they don't need that. Um, so that was a weird adjustment, like right at the beginning. But I mean it's just kind of been whatever. I mean, the only time that I really like feel like, oh fuck, this is depressing is
Mm.
I'm from California
Oh,
and I had to go visit a couple times. A friend of mine was having surgery, and so I was there just helping him out through that.
right.
And it was when I was in California that I would like notice, you know, because in Portland I just stay home, but in San Jose, when I go, there are people I like to see, places I like to go. And so going there during the pandemic and being like, well, fuck, I can't, like, I'm only here for a few days and I can't see these people and do these things.
Right.
Like,
Because you got to
that's,
quarantine and whatever,
yeah,
right?
yeah. And just everything's closed. And, you know, and so that was when it was like, that's when it kind of hit like, oh man, this sucks. But,
Yeah.
I mean, you know, shit happens and we'll all get through it. So
Yeah. Yeah.
it'll be
Like
it'll
I
be
said, at least there on a previous episode, I'm just glad there's a vaccine finally, and
yeah, things are starting to I think indoor dining just recently like reopened in Portland. I
yeah.
don't
Here,
know for sure, but
here in Connecticut, where I live, it's been very minimal for God, I don't even know now. It's been at least like 5 6 months, I want to say. Like we were like small capacity indoor, especially
yeah.
when winter started hitting. They were allowing people in. They like all the bars have like sectioned off areas where it's like 3 seats at a bar, and then there's like two
Mhm.
plates of glass and everything like that. So I've only been out a handful of times myself because one of my friends is a bartender, and occasionally if I have money or whatever, like I would go out, but I try to stay
Yeah.
home as much as possible too. It's like I got family that are at high risk that if I caught COVID, which I'm pretty sure I had it at one point, they can susceptibly pass away from it. So
Yeah. Yeah, my ex, but we're like pretty sure that he had it like in January of 2020 because he was
yeah,
so sick. And then it wasn't until like, you know, probably June, July, we were like, oh fuck, wait a minute. Like, I think that you probably had it.
right.
Yeah. Yeah, it's, you know, I don't I don't drink and I don't really do much. So I'm not in a rush to get back out, but
Right.
I don't know, at least knowing
Plus
that.
you're a mom too, you got kids and stuff, right?
Yes,
How many
yes,
kids?
I have two.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I have an 8-year-old and a 15-year-old.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So, 15-year-old is pretty self-sufficient, which is nice.
Mm,
And my 8-year-old is just my little shadow. So, um, yeah, so it's, a lot of my time is a little busy with that. Um, yeah,
mm.
they're amazing though. They're really
That's good
rad.
though. That's
Yeah.
understandable though, and
Yeah.
that's awesome. I don't have kids personally myself, so I do have a niece and a nephew. My nephew is gonna be a senior soon. Oh my god. And yeah, and my niece, she's in fourth grade now, I think. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm terrible.
Yeah.
Um
Oh, it's fine. I can't even, especially with how like the distance learning is. I'm like, you're in third grade
right,
first. What are you in right now? Like, yeah,
right.
no, it's third grade though. I do know that, but yeah, it's crazy.
So you said you originally from California. What was it like growing up there, and how was it growing up?
Um, so I'm from San Jose, which is in the Bay Area. Um, and it was, I mean, I lived in a neighborhood called Almaden, and that was like the rich, ritzy neighborhood. But I lived on like the only original street in Almaden. So like
Right.
I lived like at the end of this dirt road in like this like really old house that was built in like who knows when. And just we had like half an acre of land, and it was like surrounded by like all these mansions. And so
Oh,
it
cool.
was like I went to, and so it was like I went to this high school that was like all these like rich ritzy kids, and and then it was like me who I don't look that much different than I did in high school. So it
Mm.
was like all these, like uppity kids, and then like Brittany coming through. So it was a unique experience. And I had family issues, and it was a very unique household, and I don't know, it all shaped a lot of who I am, which is cool. Um, but I mean, I talk a lot, and I have ADHD. So when a question is asked, I go like,
Like I
so,
said, like I
whatever
said, this
you
this whole this whole podcast is just easygoing conversation, and it's just
yeah.
mainly just you say something, I branch off it a little bit just to keep the conversation going and stuff like that.
Okay.
So it's a very laid back podcast,
If
so you don't gotta worry.
okay, if I'm ever talking about something, you're like, just tell me to shut the fuck
No,
up.
no, I would no,
Um,
please. Come
you
on.
know what, bitch? No. Yeah, no, growing up was I mean, I grew up with my mom struggled with alcoholism and addiction, and my parents divorced when I was 16, but should have divorced a lot sooner kind of thing. So I mean,
Right.
it was a little rough, but I had, I don't know. I had a family that loved me very much, but it was, I had my struggles,
Mm.
um and yeah, I have two younger brothers that are amazing. And so, I mean, I don't know, it just was.
I hear you. My parents didn't have any problems with addiction or anything, but my grandfather, who I never met on my dad's side, died when my dad was 16. But his father was an abusive alcoholic, and my dad's childhood was very rough.
Yeah.
And it definitely left some scars. I want to
Hmm.
say, emotional and stuff like that. That I really feel like to this day he could have gotten out with like therapy or talking to some sort of counselor or whatever. But I mean, I don't want to say my father's a bad person because he's not.
Yeah.
But he definitely isolates a lot. He shuts down. Like whenever him and my mother would argue. My parents separated too when I was a sophomore in high school, so I was probably roughly around
Yeah. Probably
16 as
about the
well.
same. Yeah.
And whenever they would argue, it was just like he would just shut down. He would just like either leave, get in the car, wouldn't say anything. And, my mother finally had enough of it. But my father would, grow up with like major trust issues. Like
Hmm.
he didn't even trust like me or anybody else in my family for the
Oh,
most
yeah.
part to this day. And I've said in previous episodes, but I'll, tell you that my father and I aren't as close as we used to be. He had a heart attack a few years ago and didn't tell anybody.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
it was hard. It was I found out the week after. I was one of his emergency contacts on top of it, and nobody called me. Nobody
Ugh.
called me, and he called me the week after. He was already home resting. Of course, I flipped out. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know,
You're like,
so
probably should have told me that.
yeah, and there was just a whole lot of other stuff between stuff going on in his personal life, like him getting remarried and not telling anybody, and I found out by accident, and then
Oh my
he's
gosh.
telling me to like not tell anybody, like the rest of my family, and then he has this heart attack, and I'm like, what the fuck, man? Like, how am I if you died, how am I gonna explain your other life to everyone else? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
No, exactly. I
s
mean, I I I think that it's really, I don't know. I'm just thinking back to like my childhood. Like before I got sober, like there was a lot that I would blame on, oh, well, my mom did this or my childhood was like this and that's why I'm doing
right,
this. And and I think um it's I think it's important to like not ignore like what happens to us and like definitely what happens, in our life. It does it shapes part of your life, but I think that a lot of people, and I know like for me myself, like I use that as a crutch, like, oh well, my life is fucked up because my childhood was fucked up and like not my fault. And it gives us the excuse to like not work on ourselves because we're able to just be like, well, no, I'm doing this because this happened to me.
right,
And and eventually I mean, and it wasn't even like right when I got sober. It was, after at least a few months of like step work and stuff, but just um realizing that it's okay to like acknowledge the shit that happened to you, but like that okay, you can't control what happened to you, but you can control how you move forward with it. And
exactly,
using, I mean, I could sit here and blame, a lot of my issues and what I do and how I feel on, okay, well, my mom did this when I was younger, and my mom would say this to me, and
right,
this and that. But that doesn't do anything, except like just harbor a resentment. And so,
right,
um, so yeah, I guess I've gotten used to, I I acknowledge and I know what happened, and I've gotten used to like I don't necessarily include that in my story whenever I'm getting to know people now, because it's not uh, like I said, I used to use that and be like, oh, I had such a bad childhood and my mom was an alcoholic and my
mm,
mom treated me poorly. And, because in that way, if they're like, Brittany's being a bitch, like, oh, well, she had a bad childhood, and it's like, that's
right.
not what, so I'm just like thinking back to that's how I would have answered it before. I was like
Right.
kind of brushed over it. But
I
yeah.
I definitely hear you though, because I mean, like a lot of it, like I probably like years ago could have blamed a lot of it on my childhood as well too. But like you're saying too, I know now, now that I'm 34 now, you know what I mean. I've had a lot of
Me
time to grow.
too.
Oh, awesome. When's your birthday?
July 27th.
Mine just passed. Mine was on the 3rd, so
Happy birthday.
thank you. Um, but yeah, no, looking back now, I definitely know things were definitely not easy for my parents at times. My older brother is a leukemia survivor,
Oh
and
my gosh.
yeah, he had leukemia in 2nd grade, and
Oh,
it was definitely rough on my
yeah.
parents financially. My
Can't even
father had his
imagine.
yeah, my father had his own business. He was working like 80 hours a week to like pay for treatment and stuff like that. Like he's a total saint for doing that, you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
put a lot of hard work in, and thinking back, oh, where's dad? Where's dad? Well, he was working his ass off to pay for Tom's medical bills, you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
my mother working crazy hours as well while trying to raise a family, they they definitely did all right in my book, you know what I mean? There's a lot of things I wish they would have done differently, but I mean, what
And
else can you do? You
yeah.
can't blame them for stuff like that, so I feel like my parents did all right in my book. um I do feel guilty sometimes too about, like I said earlier, my relationship with my dad isn't the greatest right now, but I would still be there in a heartbeat for him if something happened to him,
Yeah. No,
so
exactly.
but I definitely feel like growing as a person. In the last few years, I want to say I've been through my share of heartache and stress, and depression. I suffer from depression hardcore, and and I've done a lot of good work. I feel like I checked into therapy a couple of years back because I was having severe suicidal thoughts, and a lot was going wrong in my life. And if I didn't go back to therapy, I don't know where I'd be. And Discord needs to shut the fuck up. I'm getting so many notifications right now from my friends in Discord. I can't figure out how to mute it. You're ruining this conversation, Discord. God damn you. I am so not technically advanced. I apologize to my listeners and my viewers, but if you keep hearing a bloop, bloop, that's my
I'm
Discord
not hearing
friends.
it at all.
I'm hearing it. I'm hearing
okay,
it.
so you're
So
like,
it's gonna
I'm in
come
the
out on
thought,
my
and then it's
it's gonna come out on my audio, and I'm
Okay.
gonna get so mad.
Is it on your laptop or?
No, it's on my PC, so it is what it is. I don't even know which group it is. Like,
I know. I just looked how to turn on Do Not Disturb on my laptop because
Right.
I didn't like. I just never thought to do it, and I'd like say something, and Siri would be like, "What's that?" And I'm like, "Nothing, bitch. I didn't talk to you." Like,
it's one of these. All right, so full disclosure, I'm definitely a nerd. And I do a lot of geeky things, and I have a separate podcast with some of my friends from the music scene where we talked about we haven't done an episode in a while, but we've done a lot of like pop culture stuff and stuff like that. But
nice.
I recently joined an online D&D group. I've never played D&D in my life, so I'm like walking through blind on this whole thing, and I'm just like, okay, I guess I'm a ranger. And
You're all, okay, like, I guess I'll do this now.
They're like, what's your background story? And I'm like, we have to have a background story. I'm like,
girl, this is really intense.
God, and Discord is still going off. Oh my God. I thought I hit mute. Oh my God. Okay. I apologize, listeners. I'm sorry. Anyway, getting back to it. This is going to be such a funny podcast.
I do want to circle back because I had, let me just,
yes, please.
Have you ever heard of the podcast, The Adventure Zone?
No.
Okay. So let me go on a tangent. So my absolute favorite podcast in the world is called My Brother, and Me. And it is it's the three McElroy brothers, and they are just the funniest motherfuckers in the world. Like, they just have the stupidest humor, and it's like an advice podcast, but what they'll take it, questions from listeners, and they give terrible good advice. And then they also do like questions from Yahoo Answers which are just ridiculous. And anyways, they're amazing, and they have a bunch of podcasts under their belt. They actually just came out with a book called Everybody Has a Podcast Except You, and I
think I've heard of it.
It's so, I just love them so much. Like, they have literally like been my therapy like this whole past year. Anyways, they have a podcast called The Adventure Zone where they play D&D with their dad, and that's the podcast. And like, none of them had ever played D&D before.
Right.
And anyways, it's fucking hilarious, and there's like graphic novels from it, and I think they're coming out with a show, so
that's so cool.
Check that out.
I'll definitely have to look into it.
Up your alley. I like plug Mabim Bam all the time, even though like they don't need it, and I'm not like, I was trying to post in one of the podcast groups like, you guys should all get this book, and they like they're like, no plugging your links, and I'm like, trust me, they don't need me to plug this, it's just my like suggestion.
Right.
I don't know these guys, but anyways, yeah, so you should listen to The Adventure Zone. They're
I'll have to check it out. Yeah,
I have them on my water bottle. I love
nice.
them.
I got a few podcast shirts in the closet over there. I got a Last Podcast on the Left, which is my absolute favorite true crime podcast. Next year's, of course, my new favorite one.
So I showed my co-hosts your message, and they were like, "That's fucking like, that's such a compliment." So that was that had us all tickled. We were super stoked to have that comparison. So
I'm sure you're familiar with the show then, obviously. Mm-hmm. Oh, I fucking love those guys.
Yeah.
And I also listen to like Wizard and the Bruiser to get my pop culture knowledge fix and whatever. Nice. And then I listen to a lot of Rooster Teeth, and that's about it. But you know, but
Yeah.
anyway, circling back.
There we go with
Yeah.
that ADHD tangent.
I kind of feel like I might have it too, because it's like, you know, I'll go off on tangents and I'm like, what was I talking about? Like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah. I
anyway,
was just diagnosed as an adult, so you know.
I have
Talk,
friends that
talk to someone about it.
right. I actually, my last guest, he recently he thinks he was diagnosed with it, and they put him on some medication just to like try it out and see what happens. And he was like, "Yeah, I think it's working because like it's helping with some anxiety, some
Mhm.
depression. I'm a little bit more focused now." And I'm like, "That's great, man." Like,
Yeah.
so
Oh yeah. Yeah. No. Yeah. I take Adderall now for it, and it. Ha- my neighbor is just out of control. What the fuck?
I thought that was another just like a wait, what? Like,
Literally, like squirrel. No, my neighbor is like, I don't know what the fuck they're doing. It always sounds like they're like dropping a weight on the floor, and I'm like, what are you doing up there?
I got asshole neighbors too, except they have loud cars, and my bedroom is right by the driveway, and I
Oh
work
my
nights,
god.
so yeah, they like waking
No.
me up in the morning.
These people are awful. It's anyways, okay, whole nother tangent. I don't even know what I was saying. All right, let's go back to what we were talking talking about before we went off on
We're
500 things.
right. We were talking about like growing up and like becoming you know, more self-aware and not blaming
Yeah.
so much on our past and stuff like that. So I definitely agree with you a lot. Like, you know,
Yeah.
I started getting into shape again. Like, you can tell I bought an elliptical behind me. I got a total gym in the other room and
Nice.
canceled my gym membership because I'm not fucking going there during COVID. Hell no.
I know. I know. I got the COVID fluffies, and I'm like, I really want to go back to the gym, but I think I'm just gonna get an elliptical with my tax return whenever the fuck it gets
There you
here.
go. I
But
hear
yeah,
Peloton's really good too. I almost bought one, but
everybody has one. I'm like,
yeah,
I'll find one on Facebook
there you
Marketplace for
go.
like $100 and call it a day.
I know Bowflex had a nice one for a little while where it goes like side to side too. I was like, that's fucking crazy. I don't need that.
I'll
Like,
get motion
whatever.
sickness.
Yeah, same here. But anyway, we're talking a little bit about our interests here. Like, why don't we just deep dive? Let's dive deeper into that as I'm getting my words twisted here.
Let's do it.
So we're talking podcasts and stuff. Like, what kind of music are you into?
Everything. And I know that's such a cliche answer. My
You must
I
live near a
finally
train station too. I'm hearing in the
Oh
background.
my God. Yes. I'm telling you, I don't I mean, thank you, microphone, for being so amazing. But like my windows closed, my blinds are closed. It's like a mile away.
Fuck trains pulling through to fuck up your podcast. Woo woo.
Yeah, this is why I
And
record
Discord
at like
too. Discord is the other guest that's just smashing my end, like to no fucking. This is gonna be honestly the funniest. Like it's gonna be like really good as always, you know. But it's gonna be probably one of the funniest ones with all the background noise on my end.
anyone that knows me will not be surprised at what a clusterfuck the first podcast I guest on is. So don't worry.
Anyway,
Yeah, music. It's kind of all over the place, but I would say I definitely am still stuck in my senior year of high school when it comes to music. So I mean, I grew up with my dad's a musician,
oh.
and my mom is a music lover. So I'm gonna I swear to fuck, I'm about to get something and just start like pounding on my ceiling. Um
Hey, you,
so
quiet up there. You got the broomstick and
yeah.
everything. Like,
No, I
just
did the other day. They'll
that's
like
awesome.
fucking party until like 3 a.m. and it's really annoying. Anyways, that's a whole okay. Focus.
Relax, it's fine.
Getting all worked up now. Yeah, so anyways, I grew up with like all kinds of music and an appreciation for all music. And so but I my like playlists are a combination of, like I said, like early 2000s pop punk, but then like songs that like my 8-year-old likes that I'm like, okay, this isn't bad, I can jam to this. So we
Baby Shark.
no, luckily we are not there. We are out of that one. No, she's like way more hip with her musical taste than I am. It's hilarious. She'll be like, can I turn this song on? And I'm like, fuck, that's good. Like, where did you hear that? Like, yeah, so I music is it's really all over the place for me. It just depends on. But I mean, music is. I love music. Like I have to have it on like all the time. Either that,
Right.
either that. Um, I don't know. It's really hard for me to like narrow down like my playlist. I finally made like a Spotify playlist of like to send to people when they're like, what kind of music do you like? And I'm like, these are like all the songs, like these are like up top of my head, like songs that I will always jam out to if they come on. And it's
Right.
like, it's really all it's there's no rhyme or reason for it. So
There you go.
um yeah, I just, I can appreciate all music.
I
So
I'm definitely a fan of a lot of different types too, but I mainly as I got into like high school and stuff, like it got progressively heavier.
yeah.
And I'm actually a musician too. My father is actually a singer as well.
Oh, okay.
He was our singer in our church choir growing up, and my sister and I were both in youth choir. So, and then of course me being, the punk I was when I was a kid, like to rebel a little bit. My mother was like, "Oh, I don't want you listening to Korn. That's the devil's music." But like, I'm gonna crank that shit up then,
Exactly.
Oh, don't. I
Exactly.
definitely broke my mother's heart a little bit when I got my first tattoo, but I mean, it is what my mother loves me though. She's proud of me now, but
Yeah, luckily my mom got her first tattoo before me, so there was no
yeah.
problems there. But
Um,
yeah.
but yeah, like I went from listening to like fucking I hate to admit this on my own podcast, but I don't care. I used to listen to like boy bands back in the day. I used to know like
Oh,
yeah,
okay, who
I'll
cares?
still fucking rock it to this day
Dude,
if I'm in the right mood, you know what I mean?
if
But
I'm
like
if I'm on a date and I bring up the Backstreet Boys and the dude's like, "I want to listen to Backstreet Boys," I'm like, "This is over.
I'd be right
We're
there
done.
I would be right there singing along with you.
Thank you." God,
But
real men love Backstreet Boys. Okay.
I used to in middle school. I used to know the choreography to Bye 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 because I thought that's how you got girls. And man,
Well,
was I wrong.
wasn't that
No,
wasn't
no, no, no,
could have
no.
fooled me.
I was the butt end of every joke. I was bullied, picked on, called gay very much.
Oh my
Yeah,
god.
it was
Yeah,
brutal. It
fuck,
was
because you
total.
can groove. Like,
Yeah,
fuck you
right. Like,
guys.
but I found
I mean,
out I
nothing
liked it.
wrong if you were gay, but
Right.
like
Yeah.
that's a very you know,
Right.
not clever
I mean,
cliche to
I'm
use.
I'm perfectly comfortable with my sexuality. I'm not gay in any way, but I whatever, you know what I mean? And I found out back then that I just loved to entertain and I didn't care who the hell thought any different. That's why I became
Yeah.
a singer and I was in a band for a number of years. So,
Yeah.
yeah. But
Awesome. Yeah, fuck it. I was like obsessed with Backstreet Boys. Like it just was like when I was in like probably I think it was like 8th grade maybe. Excuse me. I had 7 Backstreet Boys t-shirts and that's what I rotated every day. I had my 7 Backstreet Boys t-shirts. That's all I wore. I had my walls covered like walls ceiling covered in posters like
right.
it was all about Backstreet Boys. I have yeah, I
I
actually
didn't
have a
have the
whole story about that. But
Oh
yeah.
no, go for it. Go for it. I'd love to hear it.
Okay, so I actually just okay, so it's okay. So so I loved the Backstreet Boys, okay? And in actually I just made a TikTok about this, which is
Oh
really
no.
that's why it's like fresh on my mind. So in like 2001, my favorite Backstreet Boy, who was Brian Luttrell, he and his wife Leanne made they started a production company, and it was called Bry Lee Productions. And I saw it on TV, and I was like, I love that name, Briley. I love that name, and that is going to be what I name my first daughter. And so 4 years later, I had a baby girl, and I named her Briley.
Aw.
And and so and I never really told people because it's not like I was like, oh, I want a Backstreet Boys themed name. It was just I really liked that name, Briley.
Right.
And so anyways, so named her Briley. As Briley has been getting older, they're figuring out who they are and and all that stuff. And so they recently chose to start going by they them pronouns and came out as non-binary and had decided that they wanted to start going by the name Lee. And it was like I fully support everything that my kids want to do and every decision, but Briley was like so significant of a name for me that it was like it was
Mm.
it was really hard to get that idea, you know, and I'm like, can I still call you Briley? Like, and, you know, and kind of thing. And they were like, they super understood. They're super respectful of it.
Right.
But recently an article came out saying like the headline was like basically saying like one of the Backstreet Boys is like a QAnon Trump supporter kind
Oh
of thing.
no.
And I was like, I feel like I know who it is. And I read the article and it's like Brian Luttrell and his wife Leanne. And I was like, well, don't like that name anymore. And so I sent it to my kiddo and I was like, all right, I could start calling you Lee now. I was like, the name lost its oomph. So
Oh man. Well, I'm glad we're on the same side of the spectrum here when it comes to, you know, who we can get behind politically. I mean, I'm not a registered Republican or Democrat. I
yeah.
definitely hate both sides, but
Yeah.
I'm a lot happier Biden's in office right now.
Trust me, I did my research on all the people that commented on that post and they're like, I'd love to have you on the show. And I'm like, I am digging in. And some of them, it's like, you know, Trump. And I'm like, not even responding to your request to be on your show.
Yeah.
I did my research. I make sure that I don't want to fight on a podcast. So
right. You're definitely one of the first guests in that group because I'm fairly new to that Facebook group that I saw your post and I was like, oh my God, like this hits like everything I try to talk about on my show and then just whatever else. And I'm like, let me reach out and see if she would be interested. And you know, I'm really glad it worked out.
Yeah. I mean, like I'm planning on eventually when things calm down a little bit, I'm starting my own podcast that kind of is more of this kind of talk. But you know, right now, as you know, like the podcast I do have is true crime. So but I'm very passionate about talking about, you know, my mental health, my sobriety, my addiction and all that stuff. And so I don't necessarily have the opportunity on a weekly basis to discuss that. So that's why I put out that like, if anyone wants to talk, I have a lot to say. So
well, if you ever need any help, you let me know. I've got a background in graphic design. I'm also a video editor, and you know everything that I do for my podcast is all done by me. I wish I had the money to hire an assistant.
Hire and then fire.
No. Unless you're fucking up, then you're fired. But no, no, I really need help right now. But like, anyway, no, I have way too many hobbies. So
I somehow do all of a sudden too. Like I went from doing nothing to like every day I'm like, oh my God, I have like so much to do. But it's all, I mean, I'm enjoying it. It's all stuff I'm bringing on myself. So
there you go.
But yeah. Eventually I intend, it's something I've wanted to do for a really long time. And then now that I'm doing this other podcast, I finally got thrown into the podcasting world. And so now I feel like I'm able to take that and do my own thing eventually. So we'll see.
So before we dip too hard into that podcast, let's talk a little bit more about your mental health. You know, you were talking about on your post that you've been sober for 5 years now, was it?
Yeah, 5 years on January 25th.
I will make sure to insert thunderous applause in the clip here. But congratulations on that. I'm not sober myself, but I definitely had a problem for a little while with alcohol where it got to the point where I was like, okay, I gotta either stop or chill out for a while. And especially with the weight too, I was putting on a lot of weight and I was like, okay, now I definitely have to cut most of my drinking out because it's just not helping me lose weight. So, but anyway, I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead.
Oh no, I'm somehow the only person in the world who got sober and did not lose weight from it. So I'm a little bitter about that, but
girl, you're fabulous.
That's
Stop.
Okay. Oh, thanks. Yeah. I also was like the fattest cokehead I knew. So, you know, I guess just the weight loss part of all of that doesn't really come easily for me, but that's okay.
So what was going on like with your mental health that led to your addiction and then eventually getting sober?
Well, I have, like I said, my mom has always struggled with mental health and addiction and alcoholism and all that. So, I mean, it was all pretty much ingrained in me. I first kind of acknowledged my mental health and like started trying to like figure it out in my, I want to say junior or senior year of high school, junior year. And I went to a psychiatrist for the first time. And this was in like 2002, 2003. And so at the time it was like everyone like bipolar, like, oh, you're bipolar. Like that was just kind of like the blanket diagnosis that a lot of people were getting. So I got diagnosed as bipolar 2 and started on medication.
Are you taking lithium? Because I have a
Um,
friend that's on that. He's got bipolar too as well.
at the time, I was taking Lamictal.
Okay.
I think that was what it was. I don't know. That was like what, a million years ago? We were we were 16, 18 years ago.
Oh
That I
yes.
hate that. I hate that. I hate that fact. Anyways, so sorry. I was talking to someone else the other day and I was like, I was 16, so that was what, 18 years ago.
Yeah, my high school reunion wasn't that long ago either. When I was still making music, and I just we had a show that night, and I was like, "Fuck my reunion! I'm playing a show." So
Yeah, I'm just like, we're all on Facebook. Like we know what we're all doing. Like
right.
there's no need for this. Anyways, so I started on medication. And all growing up, I was very adamant, like, I am not going to be like my mom. And I mean, that was like, I'm not going to be like my mom. I'm not going to drink. I saw what, alcohol and drugs did to her as a person, her as a parent, my family, like, and I just was like, I'm never going to drink or use. And that lasted until I was 16 when all my friends started drinking on the weekends. And Brittany did not want to miss out on what all my friends were doing. So, yeah, so I remember like my first drink was at this like random hotel party with with a friend of mine and then random people that I didn't know. My first drink was handed to me by a guy I didn't know in a plastic cup. Like, I mean, it was just like your cliche, like teenage drink experience.
Right.
And yeah, and so I started drinking and from there it's just, um, every weekend, like we had, my group of friends had some older friends who had a house. And so that's just every weekend we would coordinate, okay, where are we saying we're sleeping this weekend? And we would, okay, we're all sleeping at this person's house. And we drink every weekend. And I mean, I haven't told like my whole, I used to talk in AA meetings often about my story, but I don't go to AA anymore. So I haven't like told my story in a long time, but, um, and so the drinking it was progressive and it was just kind of like a teen, to me, it was just, oh, it's just teenage drinking. It's whatever. And, I got married and had my first baby when I was 18. Or I got married 18, baby at 19. Um, and then it just was, for me, I never considered it alcoholism because it wasn't all the time. To me, being an alcoholic meant you woke up at 6 a.m., started drinking out of a plastic bottle of vodka until you went to bed. Like that's in my head. I wasn't doing that, so I'm not an alcoholic. And but the drinking it progressed and it progressed. And through that time, my mental health was just all over the place. I mean, I would take medication and then feel like I was doing okay. So I stopped taking my medication. And, I mean, it just was a clusterfuck.
Right.
So in, trying to think, when I was like 27 or 28, like I had always been like, okay, I'm drinking. I know I'm drinking a lot, but I will not do hard drugs. Like I'm not doing drugs at least, until I was like 27 or 28 and I decided to try cocaine and that was a good idea. So did that and I was obviously like immediately hooked. And it just went downhill like real quick from there. So
Right.
I yeah, I spent, the next couple of years I mean, I was a real piece of shit. Like I just was a really awful human. I was an awful mom, an awful partner, everything. And it was just consumed, my life. And um, throughout that time I was still struggling with my depression and is this bipolar. At one point, like a psychiatrist on a first appointment told me that I was borderline personality disorder, which is like a really extreme diagnosis to give and you don't give it on a first appointment.
Right.
And I was also a cokehead at the time. And so but I took that diagnosis. I don't know if you're familiar at all with that diagnosis. But
I understand it. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, with borderline, it is like it's not a chemical, bipolar, it's okay, there's a chemical imbalance and you can take
Right.
medication and balance it out. Borderline is like trauma induced, and you can control the symptoms of it, but you can't necessarily like, which was perfect for me because it was my excuse for being an asshole. It was my excuse for being a piece of shit,
Yeah. I mean,
like
like
in my head.
you see that kind of behavior, and like I'm not comparing it to any of the uh psychopaths, like serial killers or anything
Yeah,
like that,
yeah.
but that definitely comes up in a lot of most cases. The personality disorder
Hmm.
and schizophrenia, stuff like that. Like you hear about it all the time and that kind of stuff. Uh,
Yeah, and so for me, it was a perfect diagnosis to have because I had an excuse. I didn't have to take ownership of what I was doing and who I was being. Oh, well, I'm an alcoholic and I have borderline personality disorder, so I can't help it, And to me, that was like, um, it was just so easy to blame everything that I was doing on
right.
something else. And yeah, and so I mean, I like I said, I was just a complete piece of shit asshole in every sense of the word. I mean, I was a liar, I was a cheater, I was a jealous, shit talking, thief, and I mean, everything about me was just not fun. Um and I had a part, and and it was really hard for me too because I still had that idea in my head of like, everything I said I wasn't going to be, as far as like my mom with, her addictions and stuff, I was being. And so I never had my kids taken from me, but I took myself away from the kids. In my head, it was better for them to not have me around than have this piece of shit mother around. And so um, I, luckily they had a dad that was taking care of them, and I just would keep myself away from them as much as I could. Um, and uh it it got to a point where I had gone to like I had like a part-time, like I had gotten like a seasonal job at like Costco or something, and I went to like the holiday party in 2015, and my uh my coke dealer's son worked with us, and so after the Costco party, we all went back to the place I was staying, and I don't know what it would have been like to OD, but I'm pretty sure I got like as close as you can without ODing. um and so I woke up the next day and I was just like, what the fuck am I doing? And I was like, oh my God,
Right.
okay, I need to take a break. And in my head, I was like, I'm gonna take a break for 30 days and then I can come back and drink like a normal person, because I did not know yet that that's not a thing Brittany will ever be able to do. I will never be able to drink like a normal person, but I thought that I could take a break and do that. So that lasted about, I don't know, I think I got to like maybe like 17 days. And I was like, I've done so good. I said I wasn't going to drink, but I never said anything about not doing Coke. So I was at a party and I was like, oh, cool. I'm going to go out to the car with these friends and do a line. Um, and because I'm an addict, that turned into a week-long bender, and ended with me just I almost ran my car off of like the side of a cliff. Like I was just in a situation with people that didn't give a fuck about me, that really, awful things could have happened. And I finally woke up one day and it was like a week later, and I was just like, okay, maybe I should try to take a break again. And like, so that was like on a Monday. And then like on Tuesday, it was like, maybe I should like do more than just like a break. And then on Wednesday, I went to my first AA meeting. And uh, that Monday was January 25th, 2016. And I went to, my first AA meeting on Wednesday. And it, yeah, I mean, that was just when everything started changing for me. And, um, I got sober through AA. I don't go to AA anymore for just personal
Right.
reasons, but yeah, I mean, that's like kind of just the like very brushed on the top of that whole journey for me. Plenty of specific stories I could tell, but that'll be for a later date. But yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
it was a long time coming, and I was lucky that I got sober when I was 29, so it didn't get too far. But it caused a lot of damage over that time that
Yeah.
has, taken time to repair. And yeah, so
I can,
that's the
yeah,
gist of it.
I can imagine. I mean, like, did you have a sponsor throughout the whole
Yeah.
time you were in AA? That's
Yeah.
good.
Yeah. It was kind of funny when I first went to my first meeting. It wound up being, or no, this was my second meeting. Wound up being at the place that became like my home group that I would go to like 3, 4 times a week. And I had a couple years before that, I had done Weight Watchers, and Weight Watcher meetings are like, it's like the AA of weight loss. And so, you'd go to a meeting once a week, and but the meeting leader for my Weight Watchers meetings was this woman named Christy. And I loved her so much. She was a spaz, and she was so passionate, and she had done so well. And she and I had totally connected. And I had always thought about Christy for like years afterwards. And never really talked to, she had left Weight Watchers, so I just never saw her, talk to her. And about a week or two going into meetings at this meeting location, I was like sitting kind of in the back of the meeting, and woman got up to go talk, and I was like, oh my God, it's Christy. Like, and so I was like, oh fuck, oh my God, Christy's here in my AA meeting, and so I had connected with her and had asked her to be my sponsor. Um and and we started working the steps and stuff. And with AA, like finding a sponsor, it's like finding a therapist. You want to find that. Oh my God, my dog is so cute.
Yeah.
Sorry,
It's all good.
I
My cat was pawing at me for a few minutes. That's why I was like over here, like, yeah.
um it's like finding a therapist. Like
Right.
it's not a one size fits all. So I had worked with Christy for a little bit, and then I met this woman named Kim, and Kim and I love Christy to death. Kim and I clicked though on the more sponsee relationship. So I worked with her through all the steps, and um you know d- yeah, so I had her. I worked the steps. We still keep in touch.
I was gonna say, do you guys still keep in touch, or?
We talk to each other every now and then. I've a few times reached out and uh asked her to be my sponsor again and start working through the steps. But I lost kind of my oomph for AA when I moved to Portland, just for my own personal reasons. And I got sober through AA, and I will never forget that. And I still live by the principles that I learned in AA. A lot of the tools that I use just mentally on a daily basis are stuff I learned in AA. I personally just I don't go to the meetings anymore. But I guess that's just, there's nothing wrong with AA. It got me sober. It keeps me sober. It's just I just don't personally go to meetings anymore.
I mean, that's fine. I mean, like, it clearly worked. You know what I mean? You're 5 years sober now, so.
Yeah. And I don't even know that person. Like, I look at my life now, and I don't even understand how I lived that life that I did. I mean, like, every waking moment right now is like, it's for my kids, and I am like their, main provider. And I
Right.
don't know how I went through so much time not giving that to them, and um so yeah, I mean, it's crazy. I am a completely different person in almost every aspect from when I was using. And it's
Yeah.
crazy. I'm
Well, I
so
mean,
grateful.
coming from an outside perspective, since this is actually the first time we're actually talking,
Yeah.
other than social media, like, I'm proud of you. That's awesome. You know what I mean? Like, I struggle with I don't I don't think I'm addicted, but there were definitely times where I felt like I was. And
Hmm.
I know it runs on my dad's side of the family. My dad never touched, well, I can't say that. He tried alcohol once in his life just to
Hmm.
see what it was like, and why every time his dad got his paycheck from the VA, or for his veterans check or whatever, it would
Right.
go straight to booze. Um, his story was kind of funny though. Just real quick, my dad drank a whole bottle of vodka just to see what it was like, and he ended up pissing all over my uncle's back seat of his car.
Oh
Uh,
no. That
he,
sounds about right. Vodka was
yeah,
my favorite alcohol.
but he told me that story. I had to laugh at it, but he was like, "Yeah, after that, I never touched it again. I hated it." So
Yeah.
like, I had to respect him for that. But I mean, like for me, coming from a family that I guess addiction kind of runs through.
Yeah.
There were times where I did question it sometimes because, especially dealing with my depression,
Mm-hmm.
I went through a really bad breakup a few years back. On top of everything that happened between me and my father, my siblings and I were fighting, like severely fighting, not talking to each other, and a lot of stuff was going on with work, and my mental health was down the drain, and I didn't even realize it.
Yeah.
And I was drinking every day. Um, Not to the point where I was getting blackout drunk, but it was just like every day. Like it
Yeah.
would be
Yeah.
2 drinks today, 3 drinks tomorrow, mainly like the higher volume alcohol stuff.
Oh yeah.
Um, and then I started smoking weed too, but that's for a whole other reason because I have a lot of I actually have glaucoma, and
Okay.
I had spinal surgery 7 years ago, so it kind of helps with the pain.
Oh yeah,
So I
absolutely.
don't smoke every day because I don't enjoy it, but I mean, I definitely like CBD more than that. But anyway, that's
THC and I are not friends in
yeah,
any way, shape, or form. So
yeah.
I get you.
My anxiety gets kind of like, oh, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? But
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
there are a lot of benefits to it, and I'm not
Oh
going to
yeah.
argue. I'm not going to tell anybody that weed is bad for you because it's not.
No, not
But
at all. I wouldn't like for me, I tried smoking weed for my anxiety and I wasn't going to count that against my sobriety because I
right,
wasn't abusing it.
right,
I was attempting to use it, seeing to use it as a medicinal and it didn't work for me. And so I stopped,
right.
like just there's nothing wrong with it if it helps so
Yeah,
many people. Like it just
yeah.
for me does not equal a good time. So
Mm. You ever try CBD?
hmm
Okay. Yeah, CBD is a
yeah.
fucking godsend. Oh my god.
Yeah.
I was actually laughing because I was watching Chappelle's show for the first time in years, and now I don't have to feel guilty about watching it because he finally got his back pay from Comedy Central for it.
Right.
So good on him. But
Yeah.
there was that O'Dweeds thing that popped up, that fake weed or whatever, and it was like it's
Uh-huh.
all the benefits of weed, but it's not weed. And I'm like, wow, he basically was talking CBD before CBD was
Yep.
legit. I was
Yep.
like, that blew my mind. I was like, holy shit, this show came out fucking what, like almost 20 years ago. You know what I mean? Like, and
Yeah.
anyway, going back to what I was saying. Yeah, it got to a point where for me mentally, with the breakup, the family issues, the jobs and everything, my depression was spiraling down the drain. Or I'm sorry, yeah, just spiraling down the drain and out of control, and to the point where I was uh I guess preparing to kill myself and didn't
Mhm.
realize it.
Yep.
And it was when I woke up and realized what I was doing, I immediately picked up the phone. I was searching for therapists and everything like that. But I gave my apartment key to my friends Scotty and Jeannie from Crossing Rubicon. I don't know if you're familiar with them, but it's Jeannie
No.
Sagan, formerly of All That Remains. It's her and her husband's band.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, yeah. I'm friends with them.
Awesome.
But they have a key to my place, and I gave it to her husband Scott, who's like one of my best friends, and he's like, "You're all right," and I'm like, "Yeah, why?" He's like, You seem kind of off, dude," and I'm like, "No, I promise I'm fine. Um, everything's cool," and I was like, not like I
Yeah.
put
Oh,
I
yeah.
put I put emergency contacts on my fridge. I was writing up a will on my computer, just because I had that mentality. It was like, I can't trust anybody right now because everything's so fucked up in my life right now that, like, what if something, God forbid, ever happened to me? Let me make the preparations. And then when I finally
Yeah.
snapped out of it, I was like, I feel like if coming from an outside perspective, this looks like I'm about ready to commit suicide.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So, and that's when I got on the horn and tried to find a therapist, and I found a really good one. She ended up leaving the practice, but I was in there for a year, like twice a week, and just letting it all out. And like, I finally got a better handle on, my drinking because of it.
Mm-hmm.
I was getting back into shape again, and I was just starting to feel good. I fell in love with hiking. Like, I'm so mad
Yeah.
it's winter right now because I want to be out hiking again. But just all that was just helping me so much mentally more. And then that's how this podcast started, because I was trying to make music again, and then
Right.
the pandemic hit. So then
Yeah.
I was like, well, what am I
Kind
gonna
of fucked
do? Like,
everything up.
yeah. So that's another thing that helps with my depression. If I'm not doing anything creatively, I
Yeah.
get the most depressed.
Yeah.
So
No, I
I
mean,
definitely feel you. Like,
yeah, being self-aware is something that I um I mean, it's one of my biggest tools that helps me through every day is I'm like self-aware almost to a fault, and but it is it's something that helps me get through every single day. I'm able to, I mean, even something as much as like I take medication right now for, I take citalopram, Wellbutrin for my anxiety and depression, and then Adderall for my ADHD. And, I know that if I accidentally forget to take like it's mostly my citalopram, but if I forget to take my medication one day, I now know that okay, I forgot to, end of the night, I'm like, fuck, I forgot to take it. Or next day, I'm like, fuck, I didn't take it yesterday.
right,
I know that not the exact next day after I miss it, but the following day is gonna be an awful, awful shitty day. I know that now. And it doesn't stop it because I can't stop my brain from doing the things that it does. So it
right,
doesn't make me not have that shitty day, but at least I am preparing myself for it. And when I'm in the middle of that shitty day, at times, sometimes I still can't even like pull myself out of it. But for the most part, I can be like, okay, this isn't really how you're feeling. This is just because you forgot your medication. Okay,
right,
you just have to get through today, and then tomorrow is going to feel better. Like just that, awareness that everything is temporary, and that includes especially the shitty things and the shitty feelings. And instead of just completely shutting down, don't get me wrong, some days I still do shut down. And I keep it, I talk very openly with my kids about mental health and my addiction and my recovery and everything, because I know that there's a really solid I mean, I already, like I said, they're 8 and 15. And my 8-year-old, we finally just got her diagnosed with ADHD, and she just started taking Adderall as well. um I didn't want to just start like popping her with pills, so we put it off for a
right,
really long time until it started like affecting school, and finally we're like, okay, it's time to address it. And my older kiddo is, suffers with depression and anxiety, so it's definitely, I knew from the beginning it's a very real chance that they're going to be
right,
struggling with these same things. So I'm very open with them, and if I'm having a day where I'm just not quite on my game, I'm able to say to them, hey, my brain is being a little weird today. Like, so if, and I'll tell them if I snap, if I'm cranky, like I apologize ahead of time. This is why I'm going to really work to not, let those things happen. So, um, yeah, being self-aware is just something that I'm very grateful for it. It took time, I mean, that again goes with not letting, not making excuses from outside, oh, well, I'm
right.
like this because of this. But I don't know, just being aware of it and trying to work with it. And, and I empathize with I mean, I was suicidal several times, I mean, starting in, sorry, I'm like burping like a real
That's all
lady.
good.
Um, I'm just so classy. Um, uh, not at all.
It's all good.
I, I mean, starting in high school, I was suicidal, and I would, self harm. And, um, and throughout my, addiction and alcoholism, especially at the end, I mean, it was just, to me, it was, everyone would, I mean, it was just that, I think it would be less stress for everyone for me to just like not be here
Right.
than to be here and have to deal with me. I was convinced that my kids were better off with no mom than with the mom that they had. Um,
I'm glad you snapped
and
out of that though, because that's no way to think. Because my
no,
dad is was almost the same way. I feel like he still kind of is in a way, because he thinks that everyone would be better off without him,
Oh
and
yeah.
just super self-deprecating and
Yep.
isolated. And we're like, no, like,
Yeah, and it's such a, unfortunately, such a common thought with
hmm
people who are, can be depressed and suicidal. And
right,
um i- it was, no amount of people assuring me like that's not true at times would, throughout the last couple years of my addiction, like literally, like the only thing that kept me from not killing myself was imagining my, at the time, 2-year-old, asking where I was. Like that
right,
was, I would picture that so vividly. And that was the only thing that, I'm so grateful because now even, I still at times get those thoughts of like, what, things aren't going, what's even the point of everything?
same here,
Like, what am I
yeah,
even doing? And I just think about like, you know, my kids or my mom, or, it is just, a thing in AA that we learned is playing the tape, and you have to play out the tape. And basically, what that term, I explained it to someone recently, but it's like, okay, you put the tape in. So you take whatever situation you're in. Like, so obviously, a very common one in AA was, okay, you want to take a drink, you have to play out the tape. So putting the tape in is taking that drink. And then you have to think of what is going to come after that. Okay,
right,
I'm going to have this one drink, and then I'm going to have 8 more drinks, and then I'm going to seek out cocaine, and then I'm going to do some coke, and then I'm going to probably make some mistakes, and then I'm going to go to sleep. I'm going to wake up, I'm going to be coming down, I'm going to be depressed, I'm going to be hungover, I'm going to be fucking angry at myself and ashamed, and I'm either going to isolate and just keep doing that until I die, or probably kill myself because of the shame. And so you play out that tape and you're like, okay, I'm not even going to put the tape in. Like, it's just, I don't even want to have that happen.
right.
And and I use that now with, so many things, even
It's a great analogy.
yeah, it is, like I said, I've learned so much in AA that to this day I use almost on a daily. And you can apply it to anything. For
Hmm
me, like, I struggle with my weight, and and if there's times where I'm trying to cut, I'm trying to just get back to a healthier weight, I could even play out that tape with like, fuck, I really want ice cream right now,
hmm
and I'll play out that tape. Okay, I'm going to have ice cream, and then I'm going to feel like shit, and I'm going to keep eating, and then I'm going to,
yeah,
it's, it works with everything.
right.
You know,
I've been doing intermittent fasting. Seems to be helping. So,
I just finally got, I started keto a couple times, and
oh, I got a bread recipe if you need it.
ooh, yes,
Yeah,
please.
low
I found
carb, no
this.
carb recipe.
Yeah. I did keto a couple times, and I was really having a lot of success. And as I said before, it was my ex, but he's still a friend of mine, but he had to have 2 surgeries last year, and we had to go to California for them. And for some reason, the both times I had started keto like a couple weeks before that, and
Right.
it would go great, and then I'd go to California and be like, I'm totally gonna like stick with keto, and I'm like, no, bitch, you ain't. Like, you're not gonna do that. That's not a thing. So I would lose like 10 pounds and gain it all back. So
Yeah.
I just started again like a month ago, and it's going really well, especially being home all the time. It makes it a lot easier.
Mm.
But yeah, that playing out the tape is one of, God, just one of like the most useful tools I've ever learned. And it just helps with everything. It helps with everything. So
I'm gonna try
um
that. I'm gonna try
it's
that.
yeah, it really is very helpful. But that is, even still, when I'm having really, really awful days, um I also finally started, because I notice it's like usually like once a month, and it's not around the time of my period, but my moods get really, really bad, because I tell people and they're like, oh, you're probably PMSing, and I'm like,
Right.
yeah, you can go fuck off.
Yeah.
Just my mental health just for some reason has a point every month that it just gets real bad. So I started tracking what those days are. So if I'm feeling like I hate everything is awful, I'm able to look at those notes and be like, oh, okay, that's why. Like, just go to sleep, Brittany, just you'll
Right.
wake up and feel better,
Right.
So
Yeah.
I don't know.
I'm the same way too. It was, yeah, I don't want to say it was funny, but like I had like a really good month, and then like for like
Yeah.
3 days straight, I'm like, why do I feel like crap? Like, what is
Yep.
going on? I'm super stuck in my head. It also doesn't help that my night job, my main source of income, is just myself and my supervisor, and he's on one end of the shop, I'm on the other. So I'm either
Yeah.
listening to music or podcasts, and I'm zoning out, and I'm just stuck in my head the whole time.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Also, it doesn't help that I live alone. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So, like I'm always isolated.
Oh yeah.
So it's not good for my mental health. But I definitely hear you on that. And where was I going with this? Now I'm losing my train of thought. God damn it.
Play out the tape. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah.
That didn't really apply, but it was sounded funny.
I think the tape got jammed. I need to find a pencil and rewind it. For those of you that don't know what we're talking about, we are 34 years old here.
20-year-olds like, what do they talk? I don't get
it. What is a tape?
That reminds me, I unpacked my VCR recently, and I was so excited because I didn't know what happened to it, and I found it. Anyways.
You remember back in the day where you'd run a video from Blockbuster, and if you didn't return it rewound, like you'd get like a
rewind. You'd get like a fee for not rewind.
Exactly. Like they track that shit. You know what I mean?
Like, get a hobby.
And you remember those like rewind machines that you just stick it in there because you didn't want to fucking hit the button?
Yeah, I think my dad had one.
We had one too.
Super fancy.
First world here. You know what I mean? Like. Anyway, but no, I think your story is like super inspiring, and I'm just getting to know you and everything like that. I'm definitely gonna apply some of those things myself, but you seem like a very strong individual, and I glad you're still here so we can talk about it.
Thanks.
So.
No, I'm glad too. So
yeah. High five, digital high five. Yes. I'll insert a clap noise right there.
Right. Yeah. Make it official.
But let's dive into your podcast. I when you said that you were co-host of a true crime podcast, I was like, oh fuck yes. Like this is like besides my like love of pop culture and being a geek, I am obsessed with true crime, and it rubbed off from my ex-fiance from years ago from watching like Forensic Files to like all that stuff. Like and she would watch like classic like CSI and stuff like that. So I'm like, oh, I'm not gonna get into this stuff. And then I'm sitting there like, whoa, like this is so
hard
interesting.
Not to.
I know. And then like stumbling on last podcast on the left, which is my absolute favorite, like next year's of course now, true crime podcast. You got to have some dark humor to kind of counterbalance the insanity and the just of everything that's happened in these cases, which I can appreciate, because there are times where I don't want to hear about a mutilated corpse and this, that, and the other, and then somebody crack a joke like, well, I guess somebody must have been hungry, or like somebody missed lunch today, or something, like just to make light of it, of how fucked up it is.
You have to,
but
you have to.
Yeah. But I definitely checked out your podcast, NiteCap, a true crime podcast. Everyone should definitely check it out. I will leave the links below. But how did that happen? How did you get involved in that?
So it's super new. We just recorded our 4th episode last night. It was, oh my God. I thought that my story last week was
with
rough.
Kevin R. Bacon.
Kevin Bacon. He
not the actor, for everybody that's listening.
I know. Yeah, Kevin Bacon. That story was as I had said in the episode, my ex is from Detroit, and so he was kind of getting updates on it, like as it was happening, and it was just such a horrific story. And I've been obsessed. I mean, like, I'm pretty sure like every white girl in the world, I mean, I've been obsessed with true crime for as long as I can remember. My mom was, my mom loved it, and I kind of picked that up from her, and I just was fascinated by it. And
my ex-fiance used to tell me all the time, she would be like, nobody will ever find your body, like, and I'm like, that's not creepy at all. Like, thanks.
My 15-year-old was like, this TikToker said the perfect way to hide a body, and I was like, cool, babe, what is it? Like, So yeah, I was just like, what the fuck are these people doing on TikTok? But
Yeah, and like I want to get advice from someone on TikTok. But anyway.
yeah, it was pretty clever though. So I'm gonna keep that tucked away. No, I'm kidding.
We can talk off air about it. No,
yeah. Don't. You're not recording this, right?
Let me. No, just go ahead. Anyway.
Yeah. So I mean, yeah. So I mean, I've been obsessed with true crime, and ever since starting to listen to podcasts, obviously, like my first podcast I really got into was My Favorite Murder, and then that has branched. There are a few others. Red Handed is one that is my uh one of my other favorites. And I was like, fuck, I want to do a podcast, and I just I didn't even know where to start with it. So never really did it. But I mean, I have I've always kind of been very I'm obviously I talk a lot, and I'm very honest and open about a lot of things, and I have used, social media as a platform to be very open with my sobriety and mental health and stuff, just because I don't know, I'm animated in how I tell things, and people
All
have,
great features to have as a podcast host.
yeah, I mean, people have, people are friends of mine are always like, you need to start a blog, you need to start a YouTube, like all this
Right.
stuff. And I was like, I don't even know what to do with it.
Mhm.
So I like literally like a month ago, like I have known my co-host for 3 weeks now, and it's crazy
How did you guys
because
meet?
so a friend of mine who's actually from San Jose, she lives in Spokane now, and her friend Gavin had put up a post on Facebook saying, Susie and I are going to start a true crime podcast, but we need a third co-host. Like, let me know if you're interested. My friend Brianne, she tagged me and she's like, Brittany, this would be perfect for you. And so she set up a group text with me, her, and Gavin. And she's like, even if this doesn't work out, like you and Gavin are going to just like be the best of friends. And you guys are going to get along
He's
so
pretty
well.
funny. I loved
Oh my
his
gosh.
British accent. It was so
Yes,
funny.
that was doing, Gavin? Like, no, he's
He
fucking his
reminds
British accent, his
he reminds me of another British man named Gavin, who I respect very much, from the company Rooster Teeth.
yeah,
Who's a legit
just
British man from England.
yeah, no, his fucking accent, his dad jokes. We
Yeah,
just we call him his dog dad jokes.
that's
He and I
funny.
started chatting, and we totally just like connected immediately. And he's like, well, let's set up a FaceTime. Susie's gonna be in the studio because they're both in Spokane and I'm in Portland, so it's like 5 hour drive or so. But he's like, we're gonna be in the studio, let's do a FaceTime and just kind of see how this works. And we FaceTime. I mean, the three of us just got hooked on each other like immediately.
Yeah,
And at the
I can tell.
time,
I can tell.
yeah, I mean, and it's funny, I was telling my mom recently, she's like, I'm just really surprised because you don't usually get along with women. And I was like, yeah, I know. Susie's just, it's not that I don't get along with them. I'm just like I'm usually not on the same level as a lot of women.
Right.
Not, that sounded like I'm not like other girls, but I just,
Well,
no,
yeah.
I'm just really awkward. And so, so originally the plan was, they had a few people that they had chatted with and really liked. So the original plan was they were going to host the podcast, and then they had about 4 others that were going to be rotating co-hosts. So I would be on once a month. And then the other 3 that they had really liked. So we did the first episode, and it just was like fucking flawless. Like, I mean, just our not like, obviously there were a few things we had to work on after that, but just our chemistry was just amazing. And so their co-host for the second episode had to wasn't able to do it like last minute. So they're like, do you think you can put a story together in a couple days and be on again? And I was like, yeah, of course. And so we did it. It was great. And then, yeah, at the end of the episode, they were like, so we kind of just like want to have you like just be the third co-host with us. And I was like, fuck yes. Like, this was like, everyone I told that I was doing this, they were like, this doesn't surprise me. Like, this is right up your alley. So, yeah, so I just like, I got super into it. Like, I just was so excited. I'm a crafter on the side. So I'm like, look at this mug I made. Look at this glass I made with our logo and all this. And I was just fucking stoked on it. And so, yeah, like I said, we just did our 4th episode last night. We've done like 2 we have a Patreon, so we have bonus episodes that we're recording called Pillow Talk that are kind of just clusterfucks, and that's, it's great. We try to have some structure to our episodes, but our bonus ones are kind of just us having fun, still talking about crime stuff, but very,
Right,
very
right.
casually. Yeah, and so I mean, it's been so much fun. We oh god, the episode last night though, we had a guest co-host, Scotty, and whew, it was a rough one. We had to take several breaks.
Oh
We were
boy.
all crying. It was a
Aw.
really tough episode to record, but
Ah.
it's just it feels like we've been doing this forever. Like, it's
Mm.
just so much fun. And we have Gav told us our stats. Like, I think we've had almost like over 2,000 downloads already.
Wow.
And yeah, I mean, it's been 3 weeks since we recorded our first episode. So we've
Congrats.
only been out for 2.5 weeks, and yeah, I mean, it's crazy. So it's just been so much fun though.
That's awesome.
So much fun. Yeah.
Very
So
cool.
I'm very grateful to have met those two. They're lovely.
I got started years ago in podcasting. I was on a bunch of different shows for a while. I was on an internet radio show. Shout out to my boys from Do It Up Productions, DIU TV. The Lurch and Dom live broadcast was the main thing. It was a comedy show, like, but we would mainly just fuck with Lurch a lot, like, yeah, Luch, yeah, Luch, and we would just fuck with him a lot. And from there, it went. I got introduced. I was just into the music scene and everything, and I found my friends from the Metal Syndicate. They're not really much of a thing anymore, but they had like their own podcast network, a bunch of different shows and stuff like that. I was a guest on a few episodes of one of their shows, and then a bunch of my friends, like I said, from the music scene, were like, we all have these interests in like pop culture. Like, what if like four singers got together and started talking nerd stuff? And I was like,
Yeah.
dude, I'm totally in. Like, let's fucking do it. And hence the League of Extraordinary Frontmen was born. And then it just eventually grew into like, we did it for like 2 years, but it was getting to the point where like everyone was getting busy and stuff like that. And we just didn't do it as much anymore. And then we rebooted it last December as kind of like a Merry Christmas to, people. Yeah, this year sucked. Like, here, have the league, you know what I mean? So it was nice to catch up with everybody. And plus my buddy Agrippa, who did all the production stuff back in the day, he was just happy he didn't have to do it. So I was doing everything. So it was fun.
Like,
and
Merry
we did
Christmas to me.
right. And so, we did a couple episodes. We're trying to figure out how to like get around everyone's schedule now, because like one of my friends from the show, he's now like a full-time like comic book illustrator for like a bunch of different companies.
That's awesome.
Scott is bartending 2 jobs. Agrippa's like a super busy like tech guy, plus he's a homeowner now and everything. And me, I'm working 2 jobs. I'm producing 2 podcasts.
Yeah.
Crazy nut job over here. And so it's
you
just
should see my to-do list every day.
I feel you. But yeah, like it definitely for me, from just being a performer in general to like switching to podcasts, I definitely like to entertain, but like trying to find my voice on radio more than being on stage, going from like, get the fuck up, let's open this bit up, like, oh, you know what I mean? Like, I don't see him moving over there. Come on. To go into like super chill and everything. Like I'm almost like an extroverted introvert as well too. Cause like it took me a while to break out of my shell and like figure out my voice for radio. And I'm really happy I did. I have a lot of fun. I don't have fun editing. Hence why I'm looking for
Gavin
help.
does all the editing, and we're so grateful. But he's
Gavin,
like,
I hear you, buddy. I hear you, buddy. Try doing video and audio. Yes.
Yeah, we were actually we were doing our audio on Clean Feed, and we were Skyping and recording the video as well. And the plan was to, release the videos, kind of as a bonus thing.
Right.
But so I would be like, cool. I was like, Friday night, Friday or Saturday, whatever night we record, that's going to be my makeup day. Cause I look homeless the rest of the time. I don't even try.
Would you stop? You look fabulous. All right.
Thanks.
Yeah.
No. But I just don't get ready. Like I don't, doll myself up anymore.
Right.
And so, so last night we got on to record and and I'm like full face of makeup
Right.
and I'm like, whatever, and they said something about video. Oh, and Susie was like, Susie's like, well, Gavin told me that we weren't doing video. So I just like didn't even like, I didn't dress up at all. And Gavin's like, oh yeah, by the way, he's like, now that we're doing a lot more editing on the audio, it's gonna be hard to match it up. And I'm like, I'm still getting ready. I still have to watch myself talk. So it's fine. But yeah, so we were gonna try to do, the video too. And we're still gonna have some videos eventually, but not necessarily us talking. So yeah, that's fine. I'll still get ready for the podcast.
There you go.
But yeah, no.
What you see is what you get for me. Like, like I don't really do much. You know what I mean?
You don't do your makeup for your podcast?
No, I never wear makeup.
Throw on some lashes.
I only one time did eyeliner, and that was to.
You're a musician. You had to.
Well, no, my buddy Scott does it for his band Crossing Rubicon. He's the more eyeliner guy, but I dressed up as him for Halloween one year just to fuck with him. And I showed up to the bar and everything. Like I had my duster on, I had like
amazing
all my old stage gear on and stuff like that. I found like the tightest pair of pants I ever owned. And that was a lot.
Fantastic.
And yeah, I think it was pleather that I had. Yeah. So anyway, like I just walked out. I had the long blonde wig. I had my friend do my eyeliner because I had no fucking idea what I was doing. And I was just like, wow, this really sucks. So I walk into the bar, start doing like the, the Scotty poses. He comes over, he loses his shit. He's laughing so hard. I'll have to show you a picture when we're off here. It's so fucking funny.
Amazing.
But I have a lot of respect for women that wear makeup. I can't do it.
I used to, this is just a whole nother thing. I know we've been talking forever, but this is a whole nother thing, like with my sobriety is, I would not leave the house without makeup. I mean, half the time I didn't look good because I was all fucking, on a bender. So I still didn't look good with the makeup, but I wouldn't leave without makeup or make sure this or that,
right.
or, and all that. And it's alarming to see how I will let myself go out in public these days. I'm like, all right, Brittany, some days I got to just reel it in and be like, you got to do something, Brittany. You got to.
Well, I mean, look, coming from, me, you know what I mean? Like we're still in the middle of a pandemic, you know what I mean? Like the masks help, you know what I mean? Like,
oh yeah.
A pair of sunglasses. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like I have prescription sunglasses that helps a little bit too. Cause I don't feel handsome half the time I go out the door anymore, but I mean, it is what it is, that's just me being me, laughing at myself sometimes.
Oh yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, same here. Like, there were, I'd sometimes be like, I'm going to go to the grocery store today. I'm going to do my makeup. Like you just got to do, like, I feel like I did something. So it,
Right.
my dog is gonna fall off of the bed.
That's so funny.
She's so stupid. I love her. Yeah. So, I mean, I'll still call myself up for podcasting.
I remember one time I didn't have any masks yet. So I found like t-shirts or like old band t-shirts. I had a Disturbed shirt with the guy, their logo over my face and I just tied it up. And I just went to the store like that. And I remember posting it on Facebook. This was like right at the beginning of the pandemic. Yeah. And I was like, oh, getting ready to head out. I'm down with the sickness or whatever.
Oh my God.
Like, yeah. Like just for yeah, exactly. Yeah. And like, I got one bad, like everybody loved it. You know what I mean? But like I had one bad comment where somebody was like, I think that's sending the wrong message. And I'm like,
girl, can you okay
like whatever, dude, like you know what the best thing about that was when I went to the grocery store? Everybody left me the hell alone. Like everybody got out of my way. I got what I needed and I left, you know what I mean?
Yeah. No, apparently I have that look always when I'm out in public. Like I am like if I'd be like in the mall and like one of those kiosks, like they never, like even before no one ever asked me. I guess I just have that look like, don't fuck with me. Like I could be in the best mood in the world, but apparently I look like I'm fucking pissed off. Like
resting
all the time.
Bitch face.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I have it real bad. So,
you should see some band photos I used to take. Cause yeah. super serious all the
You have to
time.
be very
But then you get to
serious.
know me. Yeah, right. And you get to
Yeah.
know me. You're like, AJ's like the nicest guy like ever. Like,
Yeah.
why do
You
you
gotta have
look so
the
crazy in your
band face.
photos? It's a photo shoot. Like I
Yeah,
have to look.
it's
Yeah,
you have to play the part.
exactly.
It's part of that's like I said, my dad's a musician and he plays the part. I mean, you gotta it's a whole thing. So I get it.
Well, let's wind this. I could talk to you for hours, Brittany. You're just
I have
so
so much to say.
yeah, we'll talk a little off air, but
Yeah.
yeah, like I could talk to you for hours. This was amazing. Like I'm so glad I reached out and got you on the show,
Yeah.
and
I'm glad too. This
I
was
gotta have you.
fun.
I gotta have you come back. But let's talk about some plugs here. Let's
Yeah.
plug your show. Let's plug your Patreon. All that stuff, and then I'll do some
Yeah.
plugs myself.
Sweet. Yeah. So it is NiteCap. It's NITE cap. So yeah, website is nightcaptruecrime.com. And we're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, et cetera, et cetera. All the main we're on platforms that we didn't even realize we were on. Like Gavin was just telling me last night. He's like, yeah, I don't know. I found some stats about this one. I'm like, oh, that's cool, I guess. Yeah, so Nightcap True Crime. Our 4th episode will be out on Monday. And we have a Patreon. It's
By the time this episode airs, it's already going to be out. So just
that's right. This isn't coming out for a while.
Yeah, sorry.
Okay.
Heads up. I pre-record my podcast, everyone, because I'm such a busy guy.
Let's see. Episode 9 will be out on 9 or 10 will be out on Monday. There we go.
Just hit that follow button.
Yeah. Just I don't know. Some episode's gonna be out. Yeah, we have our Patreon. Again, Nightcap True Crime, and we have just bonus episodes, early release, free merch, all that kind of good stuff. Yeah, I am on Instagram if anyone wants to follow me. It's Brittany Won't Shut Up.
That's so funny.
BRITTANY Won't Shut Up. Spoiler alert, that is going to be the name of my podcast when I start that new one. So yeah. I guess I'm pretty entertaining. Apparently, I post stupid shit. So yeah.
Very cool. Well, I say you are very entertaining.
Thanks.
So yeah, I'm gonna plug some stuff and then we'll talk off air and then just go from there. So I want to thank everybody for listening and watching. If you're watching on YouTube, hello. If you want to do me a favor and hit that subscribe button, hit that bell icon to get notified every time we drop a new video. If you're listening on any podcast platform, make sure to hit that follow button. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, please leave a 5-star review. If you leave a review as well, I will read it on the show. You can follow the show at facebook.com/Roads We've Traveled Podcast, Twitter and Instagram at RWT Pod. We also have a Patreon at patreon.com/Roads We've Traveled. Become a member today. You can get exclusive content like episodes before they release. You can ask questions and I will answer them eventually. We got merch on TeePublic, link down below. Buy some stuff, help support the show. I'd appreciate it. You can also follow me on Twitch at twitch.tv/JRBuckleGaming. I just played a game last night with some friends that's been helping during this pandemic, just being on Twitch and everything. But I just played this crazy ass game last night called Duck Game, and it's basically just this huge shooter game where you're just these cartoon ducks and you're just blasting the hell out of each other, and it's just so funny.
Like Duck Hunt?
No, I'll have to show you. It's so funny. Like they just make little quacking noises, but then you're holding a shotgun and you're blowing your friends away. But yeah, it was super funny. But anyway, you could also check out my portfolio at www.alanmpelletierjr.com. Hit me up for commission work, graphic design work, video work, whatever. I never sleep, so let me help you out. Brittany, this was amazing. Thank you so much for being on my show. I would love for you to come back anytime.
Yeah, thank you for having me. This was
If you ever need a guest host on NiteCap, please let me know. I love true crime and I would love it.
Absolutely.
All right.